Gregory Cole stood at the viewing window of the transport ship, watching as the massive station grew larger against the darkness of space. Apex 7 was enormous, a structure built by dozens of alien species over thousands of years. Lights flickered across its surface like stars, and ships of every shape and size moved around it like insects around a lamp. He had seen pictures, of course, but nothing prepared him for the real thing. "Ambassador, we'll be docking in 20 minutes, Captain Lisa Martinez said from behind him. She was the head of his security detail, a sharp woman with military experience who took her job very seriously. Gregory nodded without turning around. "Thank you, Captain. Make sure the team is ready." "They're always ready, sir." Gregory finally turned to look at her. Lisa stood straight, her uniform perfect, her hand never far from her weapon. Behind her, 3 more security officers waited near the door. They all looked tense. Gregory didn't blame them. This mission could change everything for humanity one way or another. 15 years ago, humans had made first contact with the Galactic Council. It had been both wonderful and terrifying. Humanity discovered they were not alone in the universe, that thousands of species existed among the stars. The Council had welcomed Earth, but only as a junior member. Humans could trade, could travel to certain areas, could send ambassadors to meetings, but they had no vote, no real power, no say in the decisions that affected the entire galaxy. Now Gregory was here to change that. He carried humanity's petition for full membership, for the right to expand to new worlds, for a real voice in galactic affairs. The document had taken 3 years to prepare, signed by every human government on Earth and all 47 colony worlds. It represented the hopes of 15 billion people. The transport shuddered slightly as it connected with the docking port. Gregory picked up his briefcase and straightened his jacket. He had chosen to wear Earth formal clothes rather than anything alien. Let them see him as he was, as a human representative proud of his people. The airlock opened with a hiss. Beyond it stood 3 aliens. The first was tall and thin with blue skin and 4 arms. The second was short and covered in what looked like feathers. The third was massive, nearly 8 feet tall with gray skin like stone. "Ambassador Cole," the tall blue one said in perfect English. The translator device on its chest glowed softly. "I am Protocol Officer Venn. The Council is ready to receive you." "Thank you," Gregory said. He gestured to Lisa and his security team. "My people will accompany me." Venn's eyes flickered to the humans behind Gregory. "Your security detail may enter the station, but only you may enter the Council chambers during the proceedings." Gregory had expected this. "Understood. Captain Martinez, you and the team will wait outside the chamber." Lisa didn't look happy, but she nodded. "Yes, sir." They walked through the station's corridors. Gregory had studied the layout, but being inside was different. The ceilings were too high for human comfort, and the gravity felt slightly wrong. Aliens of every description moved past them. Some looked at the humans with curiosity. Others didn't look at all. A few stared with what might have been hostility. The council chamber was huge. The room was circular, with seats rising in tiers all around. Hundreds of aliens sat in those seats, representatives of species from across the galaxy. At the center was a raised platform, and above that sat the Council Prime's position. Council Prime Zethkar sat there now. He was Vorlon, a species that looked almost reptilian, with scales that shifted colors in the light. His eyes were large and golden, and they fixed on Gregory as the human walked to the center platform. "Ambassador Gregory Cole of Earth," Zethkar's voice boomed through the chamber. "You come before the Galactic Council with a petition. Speak." Gregory set his briefcase down and touched the control. A holographic display appeared showing Earth and its colonies. "Honored members of the Council," he began. 15 years ago, you welcomed humanity into the galactic community. We were grateful then, and we remain grateful now. But in these 15 years, we have proven ourselves worthy of more than junior status." He touched another control. New images appeared, showing human contributions to galactic trade, human ships protecting merchant vessels from pirates, human medical teams helping on disaster-struck worlds. "We have given much to this community," Gregory continued. "We have followed every rule, respected every treaty, and worked hard to be good neighbors. Now we ask that you recognize us as full members, with all the rights and responsibilities that entails." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Some aliens nodded. Others looked skeptical. Zethkar raised a hand for silence. "You speak well, human," Zethkar said, "but 15 years is nothing. Some species waited centuries for full membership. Why should you be different? Gregory had prepared for this question. Because the galaxy is changing, Council Prime. New threats emerge. Pirates grow bolder. The Outer Rim territories need protection. Humanity has the ships, the people, and the will to help. But we cannot do so effectively while restricted by junior member limitations. By limitations, you mean the restriction on military expansion, said another voice. Gregory turned to see a Crethian delegate standing. The Crethians were insectoid, with hard shells and multiple eyes. You want more warships. We want the ability to defend our interests and help defend others, Gregory said carefully. The Council restricts our fleet size while expecting us to patrol larger and larger areas. That is neither fair nor practical. Perhaps, the Crethian said, the Council is wise to limit a species that has only known spaceflight for 70 years, a species whose own history is filled with wars and violence. Gregory felt his jaw tighten, but he kept his voice calm. Every species here has a violent past. The question is not where we came from, but where we're going. Humanity wants to move forward as partners with all of you. Pretty words, Zithkar said. But we have concerns. Your species expands quickly. Too quickly, some say. You claim 47 colony worlds already. You build ships at a rate that alarms many council members. You talk of peace, but you prepare for war. We prepare for defense, Gregory corrected. There is a difference, is there? Zethkar leaned forward. Your ships are among the most heavily armed in the galaxy. Your colonies are fortified like military bases. Your people train for combat from a young age. These are not the actions of a peaceful species. Gregory looked around the chamber. He could see the mood shifting. Some aliens who had seemed sympathetic now looked uncertain. This was going worse than he had feared. With respect, Council Prime, Gregory said, humanity has been attacked. We have lost ships to pirates, lost colonies to raiders. We defend ourselves because we must. If the Council would grant us full membership, would work with us as true partners, we would gladly coordinate our defense efforts with yours. Before Zethkar could respond, alarms blared. The chamber doors burst open and Lisa Martinez rushed in, followed by her security team. They moved to surround Gregory. Sir, we detected weapon signatures, Lisa said quickly. Someone in the outer corridor was armed with, Stop! Zethkar's voice thundered. You violate sacred space. The council chamber is forbidden to weapons. Lisa's hand was on her pistol. My duty is to protect the ambassador. Stand down, Captain, Gregory said firmly. That's an order. Lisa looked at him, then slowly moved her hand away from her weapon. But she and her team didn't move away from Gregory. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Aliens shouted at each other, at the humans, at Zethkar. The Council Prime scales flushed deep red with anger. This is an outrage, one alien shouted. Humans bring violence even here. They cannot be trusted, another yelled. Gregory raised his hands. Please, this is a misunderstanding. My security team acted to protect me, nothing more. They meant no disrespect, Zethkar stood. His full height was impressive, nearly 7 feet tall. Enough. The Council will vote on the human petition now. Now? Gregory said. But I haven't finished my presentation. You have said enough, Zethkar replied coldly. Council members, cast your votes. Gregory watched helplessly as lights appeared in front of each alien delegate. Green for yes, red for no. He didn't need to count them to see the result. Red lights vastly outnumbered green. The petition is denied, Zethkar announced. Humanity will remain a junior member of the Council. Gregory felt his hopes crumble. 15 billion people had trusted him with this mission, and he had failed them. Furthermore, Zethkar continued, Ambassador Cole will remain on this station to answer charges of violating Council sanctity. His security team brought weapons into sacred space. This cannot be ignored. What? Gregory said. Council Prime, I am protected by diplomatic immunity. Immunity applies to diplomats we recognize, Zethkar said. You are from a junior member species. The protections are different. Your security team will leave the station immediately. You will remain. Lisa stepped closer to Gregory. Sir, we're not leaving you. Gregory met her eyes. He saw the loyalty there, the readiness to fight. But fighting here would only make things worse. It would confirm everything the Council feared about humanity. Yes, you are, Gregory said quietly. That's an order, Captain. Take the team and return to the ship. Contact Earth and tell them what happened. Sir. Kate Morrison sat in the small observation room, her hands gripping the edge of the table. Through the window, she could see the council chamber below. Gregory Cole stood in a containment field in the center, his hands bound. He looked tired, but still stood straight, maintaining his dignity even now. 2 days had passed since Gregory's security team had been forced to leave. 2 days of Kate desperately trying to reach anyone who might help. But every door had been closed to her. Every official had refused to meet with her. She was allowed to do only one thing: watch. Dr. Nathan Price sat beside her. He was a xenobiologist who had been studying council species for years. He had been at the station as an observer, and now he watched with growing horror as the proceedings unfolded. "This is wrong," Nathan muttered. "Everything about this is wrong." Kate agreed, but she couldn't speak. Her throat was too tight with fear and anger. In the chamber below, Zethkar stood at his high position. "Ambassador Gregory Cole of Earth," his voice boomed. "You stand accused of threatening the security of this council, of violating sacred law, and of crimes against galactic peace. How do you answer?" Gregory's voice was clear and strong. "I am innocent of all charges, Council Prime. My security team responded to a perceived threat. We meant no disrespect. We violated no law that we knew of." "Ignorance is no excuse," Zethkar said. He gestured, and images appeared in the air. They showed Lisa Martinez and her team entering the chamber. But the images had been edited, Kate realized with shock. They made it look like the humans had burst in aggressively, like they had been threatening people. "That's not what happened," Kate whispered. "Nathan was already recording everything." "I know, but no one will listen to us." 3 aliens came forward to testify. They were from minor species, small civilizations that depended on the Council's protection. One by one, they claimed that the human security team had threatened them, had acted violently, had shown that humans were dangerous. Kate recognized the fear in their voices. These aliens were not lying because they wanted to. They were lying because they had to. The Council had pressured them. Zethkar had made them understand that their survival depended on saying what he wanted to hear. Gregory tried to defend himself. He spoke calmly, logically, explaining what had really happened. But every time he made a good point, Zethkar cut him off. Every time he asked to present evidence, he was denied. "This is not a trial," Nathan said quietly. "This is theater." They decided his guilt before it even started. The trial, if it could be called that, lasted only 2 hours. No human was allowed to speak in Gregory's defense. No real evidence was examined. The council members who wanted to ask questions were silenced by Zethkar. Finally, Zethkar raised his hand. "The council has heard enough. We will now vote on the guilt of the accused." Lights appeared before each delegate. This time Kate counted them. 347 votes for guilty, 21 votes for innocent, 12 abstentions. "Ambassador Gregory Cole," Zethkar said, "you are found guilty of all charges." Gregory's face remained calm, but Kate saw his hands tighten into fists. "What is my sentence?" Zethkar's scales shifted to a dark red color. "For violating the sacred peace of the Council, for threatening the security of our civilization, there is only one sentence. Death by cleansing fire, in the ancient manner of my people." Kate stood up so fast her chair fell over. "No, you can't." But no one in the chamber could hear her through the thick glass. Nathan pulled her back down, his own face pale with shock. "They're going to execute him," Nathan said. "They're actually going to execute an ambassador." In the chamber, Gregory stood very still. Then he spoke, his voice steady despite what he must be feeling. "I am an ambassador of Earth. I am protected by diplomatic immunity. This is murder, Council Prime. The people of Earth will not forget this." "You are a criminal," Zethkar replied, "and your people will learn to respect their betters. Let this be a lesson to humanity about the price of arrogance." Guards moved forward. They removed Gregory from the containment field and brought him to the center of the chamber. Metal restraints locked around his wrists and ankles, holding him in place. He couldn't move, could barely turn his head. Kate grabbed her communication device and activated the quantum link to Earth. The connection would take a few minutes to establish, but she had to try. Someone had to see this. Someone had to know what the Council was doing. The chamber lights dimmed. Alien technology that Kate didn't understand began to glow around Gregory. She could see him breathing faster now, see fear starting to show on his face. But he didn't beg. He didn't plead for his life. The quantum link connected. Kate pointed her device at the window, making sure it captured everything. Gregory Cole was a good man. Kate said, her voice breaking. He was a father, a diplomat, a veteran who served his people with honor. Remember him. Remember what they're doing to him. In the chamber, Zethkar made a gesture. Plasma fire appeared around Gregory. It started small at his feet. Gregory gasped as the heat touched him. The fire grew slowly, deliberately. This was not a quick death. This was meant to hurt, meant to send a message. Kate wanted to look away, but forced herself to watch. Someone had to witness this. Someone had to remember. Gregory's body began to burn. Kate heard his screams even through the thick glass. She saw him struggle against the restraints, saw the agony on his face. But then somehow he stopped screaming. He looked up directly at where Kate sat. His eyes found hers through the window. His lips moved. Kate couldn't hear the words, but she could read them. Remember, Earth. Remember what they are. The fire consumed him completely. It took 15 minutes. 15 minutes of watching a good man die in the worst way possible. When it was over, there was nothing left but ashes. The chamber lights came back on. Zethkar looked directly at the observation window, directly at Kate. He knew she had recorded it. He wanted her to record it. This was the message he wanted to send to humanity. Let this be a lesson, Zethkar announced to the assembled aliens. This is what happens to those who threaten the Council's peace. Kate stood up on shaking legs. Nathan helped support her. They left the observation room and walked through the station's corridors. Aliens stared at them as they passed. Some looked satisfied. Others looked uncomfortable. A few looked afraid. Back in her quarters, Kate immediately sent the recording to Earth. Then she sat down and finally let herself cry. She cried for Gregory, for his daughter who would never see him again, for the failure of everything they had believed about the Council. Her communication device blinked. A call from Earth was coming through. Kate wiped her eyes and accepted it. President Helen Brooks appeared on the screen. She was in the Situation Room, surrounded by advisors and military officers. Her face was hard as stone. "We received your transmission," Helen said quietly. "The entire world has seen it. Every colony has seen it." "Madam President," Kate said, her voice hoarse. "They murdered him. They murdered an ambassador. There was no real trial, no real evidence. They just wanted to hurt us, to show us that we're beneath them." "I know." Helen's eyes were filled with cold fury.
"Kate, I need you to listen carefully."
"Stay at the station for now. Act as if nothing has changed. We need you to be our eyes there." "Yes, ma'am." Kate paused. "What are we going to do?" Helen looked at someone off screen, then back at Kate. "We're going to make sure Gregory Cole didn't die for nothing. The Council wanted to teach us a lesson. They're about to learn one instead." The call ended. Kate sat in the darkness of her quarters, thinking about Gregory's last words. Remember what they are. On Earth, the recording of Gregory Cole's execution played on every screen, every channel, every device. 15 billion people watched in horror and rage as their ambassador burned alive. In the streets, protests erupted. People demanded justice. They demanded action. In the Military Command Center, Admiral Jake Patterson stood before a holographic display of the galaxy. Around him, the highest-ranking officers in Earth's Defense Force waited for his orders. "Show me everything we have," Jake said quietly. "Every ship, every weapon, every soldier. The President is about to ask me if we can win a war against the Council. I need to give her an honest answer." Commander Ben Harris stepped forward. He was the head of military intelligence, and he had been preparing for this possibility for years. "Admiral, we've been monitoring the Council's military capabilities since first contact. They're powerful, but they're also complacent. They haven't fought a real war in centuries." "And we have?" Jake asked. "We've fought each other," Ben replied, "right up until we reached the stars. We know war in a way they've forgotten. We're more advanced than they think we are, and we have advantages they don't expect." Jake studied the display. He saw Earth's 47 colony worlds scattered across dozens of star systems. He saw the 300 ships of the human fleet, small compared to the Council's thousands. He saw the population numbers, the resource production, the industrial capacity. "We're outnumbered 10 to 1, Jake said. "Yes, sir," Ben agreed. "But numbers aren't everything. They don't know about our quantum displacement technology. They don't know about the new ships under construction. They think we're still using the basic designs they sold us 15 years ago." Another officer spoke up. "Admiral, we've also been contacted by several." Admiral Jake Patterson stood on the bridge of the orbital station above Earth. looking down at the blue and green planet below. He had been born there 60 years ago, had spent his entire life protecting it and the people who called it home. Now he was preparing to lead humanity into the largest war it had ever fought. "Admiral, the defense ministers from all the colonies are on the link," his aide said. Jake nodded and turned to the holographic display. 47 faces appeared, leaders from every human world scattered across the stars. They looked worried, but they also looked determined. "Thank you all for joining," Jake said. "I'll be direct. The President has authorized full military mobilization. Every shipyard, every factory, every resource we have is now dedicated to the war effort. I need to know what each of you can contribute." One by one, the colony leaders reported. New Mars could provide raw materials from its mines. Europa Colony had the best ship construction facilities. Titan Station specialized in weapons manufacturing. Each world had something to offer, and each was ready to give everything they had. "We'll need more than ships and weapons," Jake said. "We need trained people. I'm calling up all military reserves. Any colonist with combat training, engineering skills, or command experience is needed." "What about civilians?" asked Governor Linda Hayes from the Centauri system. "People are volunteering in huge numbers. Everyone wants to do something after what happened to Ambassador Cole. We'll use every volunteer we can," Jake replied. "But training takes time, and time is something we don't have much of. The Council could attack at any moment." Dr. Amy Chen appeared on the display. She was calling from a secret research facility on the far side of Earth's moon. "Admiral, I have something that might help with the time problem." Jake had been waiting for this. Amy was humanity's top weapons researcher, and she had been working on classified projects for years. "Go ahead, Doctor." "We've made a breakthrough in quantum displacement technology," Amy said. She looked excited despite the grim situation. "You know how Council ships use energy shields? Well, our new torpedoes can bypass them completely. The warhead displaces through normal space and reappears on the other side of the shield." "That's impossible," one of the defense ministers said. "The Council tried that technology for decades and couldn't make it work," Amy smiled. "They couldn't make it work with their understanding of quantum physics. Humanity approached the problem differently. I have 40 working prototypes ready right now, and we can manufacture hundreds more within 2 weeks." Jake felt a surge of hope. "How effective are they?" "In testing, one torpedo can destroy a Council frigate in a single hit. Their shields are useless against them." Amy's expression turned serious. "Of course, once we use them, the Council will know about the technology and start working on countermeasures. We'll have maybe a month before they adapt. Then we make that month count," Jake said. "Get those torpedoes into production immediately. I want every ship equipped with them." After the call ended, Jake met with his senior staff. They gathered in the war room, standing around a huge holographic display of the galaxy. Red markers showed Council military bases. Blue markers showed human positions. There was a lot more red than blue. Colonel Danny Richards spoke first. He commanded the Special Operations Forces, the elite soldiers who handled the most dangerous missions. "Admiral, we can't win a straight fight. The numbers are against us. We need to be smart, use tactics they won't expect." "I'm listening," Jake said. Danny gestured at the display and several Council bases lit up. These are their main supply depots, communication centers, and command stations. They're defended but not heavily. The Council has been at peace for so long they've gotten lazy. I propose we hit these targets hard and fast with commando teams. Destroy their infrastructure, cut their supply lines, disrupt their ability to coordinate. "Guerrilla tactic," said General Lisa Strong, the commander of ground forces. "Hit and run, never give them a set battle where numbers matter." "Exactly," Danny agreed. "And while we're doing that, we use Amy's new torpedoes to take out their major ships. By the time they figure out what's happening, we'll have evened the odds." Commander Tyler Scott, the head of intelligence, added his thoughts. "I've been running information operations for the past week. We've been spreading the recording of Ambassador Cole's execution to every species in Council space. Public opinion is turning against Zethkar. Several minor species are having internal debates about whether to stay in the Council. Can we turn any of them to our side?" Jake asked. "Maybe," Tyler said cautiously. "The Drexian Republic has been oppressed by the Council for decades. They hate Zethkar almost as much as we do. I've made contact with their underground resistance. They're willing to work with us if we help free their people." Jake studied the map. The Drexian worlds were deep in Council territory, strategically important. If humanity could secure them as allies, it would give them a foothold behind enemy lines. Set up a meeting, Jake decided. Offer them weapons, supplies, whatever they need. But make it clear we're partners, not conquerors. This isn't about replacing the Council's empire with our own. Understood, sir. While the military prepared, civilian efforts ramped up across all human worlds. In the massive shipyards orbiting Jupiter, engineer Paul Martinez supervised the construction of new vessels. These weren't like the ships humanity had been building before. These were designed specifically for war. How long until the first Vengeance-class dreadnought is ready? Paul asked his chief engineer. 2 weeks if we work around the clock, the engineer replied, looking at the massive ship frame taking shape. But sir, we've never built anything this size before. We're not sure all the systems will integrate properly. They'll work, Paul said with confidence he didn't entirely feel. They have to work. Our people are counting on us. The Vengeance-class ships were enormous, twice the size of anything humanity had built before. They carried enough firepower to take on 3 Council warships at once. But more importantly, they incorporated all of humanity's technological advantages: quantum displacement torpedoes, advanced targeting systems, and engines that could outrun almost anything the Council had. We're also starting construction on the Retribution-class carriers, the engineer continued. Those will take longer, maybe a month each. Build them as fast as you can, Paul said. Every ship we finish makes the odds a little better. Across human space, similar scenes played out. On New Mars, factories that had made mining equipment switched to producing ammunition and armor. On Europa, chemical plants started manufacturing fuel for warships. On Titan, weapons were assembled day and night by workers who barely slept. But it wasn't just about building things. People needed to be ready too. Colonel Danny Richards stood before 300 soldiers at the training facility on Earth's moon. These were the best of the best, veterans of peacekeeping missions and anti-piracy operations. Now they would become something more. Everything you know about combat is about to change, Danny told them. The Council has been at peace for centuries. They fight by rules, by traditions. They expect enemies to do the same. We're not going to do that. He activated a hologram showing a Council military station. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to board their ships and stations in ways they don't expect. We're going to hit them where they're weakest when they're most confident. We're going to make them afraid to sleep at night. One of the soldiers raised her hand. Colonel, isn't that terrorism? No, Danny said firmly. Terrorism is targeting civilians to create fear. We're going to target military installations and leadership. Every person we strike will be someone who chose to fight us or support those who do. We're not like the Council. We won't execute prisoners. We won't murder ambassadors. But we will fight smart and we will win. The training began. Zero-gravity combat drills, breaching exercises, weapons training with equipment specially designed to work in the environment of alien ships. The soldiers trained until their muscles ached and their minds were sharp as blades. Meanwhile, Commander Tyler Scott worked on a different kind of warfare. He sat in a secure room communicating with agents spread across Council space. Some were human merchants who had been gathering intelligence for years. Others were aliens who opposed the Council's rule. The propaganda campaign is working, one agent reported. Every species has seen the recording of the execution. Many are shocked. Some of the Council's own people are questioning Zethkar's leadership. Good, Tyler said. Keep spreading it. Make sure everyone knows what really happened. The Council wants to control the narrative, but we're not going to let them. Another agent had different news. Sir, I've confirmed that the Council is mobilizing its military. They're moving ships to defensive positions around their core worlds. They expect us to attack. They're right, Tyler replied. But they don't know where or when. Keep feeding them false information. Make them spread their forces thin, trying to defend everything. The intelligence war was just as important as the shooting war. If humanity could keep the Council confused and divided, it would make the actual fighting easier. Dr. Amy Chen worked 20-hour days in her laboratory, pushing herself and her team to their limits. The quantum displacement torpedoes were. The first strike came at dawn, though dawn meant nothing in space. 12 human fleets appeared simultaneously at Council military bases across the galaxy. They came through quantum jumps, arriving without warning, moving faster than Council sensors could track. Captain Chris Warren stood on the bridge of the EDS Retribution, one of the new Vengeance-class dreadnoughts. Through the viewport, he could see the Council military station designated Target 7. It was huge, bristling with weapons and surrounded by defensive satellites. "All ships fire on my mark," Chris said calmly into the communication system. Around him, his crew worked at their stations with focused intensity. They had trained for this moment, but training and reality were always different. "Torpedoes locked," his weapons officer reported. "Fire." The quantum displacement torpedoes launched from every human ship. They looked like ordinary missiles at first, but as they approached the Council's shields, they simply vanished. A fraction of a second later, they reappeared inside the shields and struck the station directly. Explosions blossomed across the station's hull. The Council's defenses, designed to stop conventional weapons, were useless against this new technology. Within minutes, the station's weapons systems were destroyed. Within 10 minutes, the entire structure was breaking apart. "Council ships incoming," the sensor officer announced. 3 frigates and a destroyer. "Show them what we can do," Chris said. The human ships moved with a grace that Council vessels couldn't match. They were smaller, faster, more maneuverable. As the Council ships lumbered forward, firing their heavy plasma cannons, the human vessels danced around the shots. More quantum torpedoes launched. The first Council frigate exploded before it could even turn to face its attacker. The second managed to fire a few shots that harmlessly struck the Retribution's shields before it too was destroyed. The third tried to retreat but was caught by a spread of missiles from 3 human destroyers. The destroyer lasted longer. It was a tough ship, heavily armored and well commanded, but it was also slow and predictable. Chris watched as his tactical officer analyzed its movement patterns, predicted where it would be in 30 seconds, and fired torpedoes to that exact position. The Council destroyer tried to dodge, but it couldn't turn fast enough. The torpedoes struck its engine section and the ship went dark, drifting helplessly in space. "Sir, they're sending out a distress signal," the communications officer said. "Let them," Chris replied. "Send a boarding party to secure the ship and take any survivors prisoner. Make sure they're treated well. I want the Council to know we're not like them." The Battle of Target 7 was over in less than an hour. All across Council space, similar scenes played out. Human forces struck 12 major military installations and destroyed or captured all of them. The Council's military, caught completely off guard, suffered devastating losses. In the Council chambers on Apex 7, Zethkar received the reports with growing fury. His scales had turned almost black with rage. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "The humans have only a fraction of our forces." General Krathmore, a Krethian officer, studied the battle reports on his datapad. "They have new weapons, Council Prime. Weapons that bypass our shields. And their ships are faster than we anticipated. They're not fighting the way we expected." "Then we adapt," Zethkar snapped. "Send our main fleet to engage them. Crush them with superior numbers." "Which humans should we engage?" Krathmore asked carefully. "They've split into multiple small fleets. They're hitting us everywhere at once. If we concentrate our forces to deal with one fleet, the others will continue attacking undefended targets." Zethkar slammed his hand on the table. "Then, defend everything." "That spreads our forces too thin," Krathmore protested. "Council Prime, we need a coherent strategy." But Zethkar was beyond listening to reason. He had started this war confident of victory, certain that the humans would be easily crushed. Now that confidence was cracking. Just kill them all. Use whatever force is necessary. While the Council scrambled to respond, Colonel Danny Richards led his special operations teams on a different kind of mission. His target was a Council intelligence facility on the ice moon of Helion 4. This was where the Council kept records of all their black operations, all their secret plans. Danny and his team approached in a small stealth ship, avoiding the facility's sensors. They landed on the dark side of the moon and made their way across the frozen surface in powered armor. "Remember," Danny said to his team through the communication link, "we're here for information, not to kill everyone we see. Use non-lethal methods when possible." The facility was defended by automated systems and a small garrison of Council security forces. Danny's team disabled the automated defenses with electromagnetic pulse charges, then breached the main entrance with cutting torches. The security forces responded quickly, but they were unprepared for human combat tactics. Danny's team used smoke grenades and flashbangs to disorient the defenders, then moved through the facility with practiced efficiency. Within 20 minutes, they had secured the main computer core. "This is it," said Sergeant Nina Foster, the team's technical specialist. She plugged her equipment into the council systems and started downloading everything. "I'm getting files on planned attacks against human colonies, biological weapons research, and what looks like evidence of them bribing minor species." "How long do you need?" Danny asked, watching the corridor for any counterattack. 5 minutes. It was the longest 5 minutes of Danny's life. Alarms blared throughout the facility. He could hear council security forces regrouping, preparing to retake the computer room. His team set up defensive positions, ready to hold as long as necessary. The council forces came in a wave, firing energy weapons that scorched the walls. Danny's team returned fire with precise shots, aiming to disable rather than kill. Several council guards fell, stunned by human weapons designed for non-lethal takedowns. "Got it," Nina announced. "All files downloaded." "Move out," Danny ordered. They fought their way back to the surface, carrying the wounded and leaving charges behind to destroy what they couldn't take. The facility exploded just as their ship lifted off, ensuring the council couldn't recover any of the data. Back on the ship, Nina analyzed what they had found. "Colonel, this is bigger than we thought. The council has been planning attacks on our colonies for months. They were going to hit us whether we fought back or not. Ambassador Cole's execution was just the excuse." Danny felt a cold anger settle in his chest. "Send all of this to Admiral Patterson. The people need to know the truth." Commander Tyler Scott took the intelligence and turned it into a weapon. Within hours, the evidence was being broadcast to every species in council space. The reaction was immediate and explosive. Minor species who had supported the council out of fear now saw that the council had been lying to them. The council claimed humans were the aggressors, but the evidence showed the council had been planning genocide. Public opinion swung dramatically in humanity's favor. On the Drexian homeworld, riots broke out. The Drexian people, oppressed by the council for decades, saw their chance for freedom. They rose up against the council's occupation forces, and Earth sent ships to support them. The Drexian uprising was bloody and chaotic, but the human forces made a difference. They provided air support, medical supplies, and weapons to the rebels. Within a week, the Drexians had driven the council forces off their world. The Drexian president, a leader who had been working in secret against the council for years, met with Tyler Scott via secure communication. "Earth has given us back our freedom," she said, her insectoid face showing gratitude. "We will not forget this. How can we help you win this war?" "We need forward bases in your territory," Tyler said, "and we need your intelligence on council movements in this sector." "You have both," she agreed immediately. "Our worlds are yours to use, and our fleet, small as it is at your disposal." The alliance was formalized within days. Other minor species watched and wondered if they too could break free from council control. But the war was far from over. The council still had massive forces, and they were finally organizing an effective response. General Crathmore took command of the council's military strategy, pushing aside Zethkar's emotional decisions with cold military logic. The Battle of the Vorland Gate was the first major engagement between the full forces of both sides. The gate was a massive structure that controlled access to the core council worlds. Admiral Jake Patterson knew that taking it would cut council territory in half. He brought everything he had: 20 dreadnoughts, 50 cruisers, 100 destroyers, and countless smaller craft. Facing him was the council's primary fleet, 3 times larger and commanded by Crathmore himself. "This is going to be ugly," Jake said to his staff as they watched the council fleet arrange itself in a defensive formation. "We have the technological advantage," his tactical officer pointed out. "And they have the numbers," Jake replied. "But we also have something they don't." "What's that, sir?" "Desperation. They're fighting to maintain control. We're fighting for survival. There's a difference. The battle began with long-range missile exchanges. Human quantum torpedoes tore through council shields, destroying ships with frightening. Colonel Danny Richards and his team approached Research Station Omega-9 in complete silence. Their stealth ship drifted through space like a piece of debris, showing no energy signature that might alert the station's sensors. Inside, 30 of the best Special Forces soldiers humanity had ever trained, prepared for the most important mission of their lives. 5 minutes to station, the pilot announced quietly. Danny checked his weapon one more time, then looked at his team. They all knew what was at stake. Somewhere on that station was a biological weapon designed to kill every human on New Mars. 300 million people lived there, including Danny's sister and her family. "Remember the plan," Danny said. "We go in fast, secure the weapon, and destroy all research data. If anyone tries to launch that weapon, you stop them by any means necessary." Questions? There were none. They had reviewed the plan dozens of times during the flight here. Everyone knew their role. The ship attached to a maintenance hatch on the station's outer hull. Danny's team moved out, floating through the airlock in their powered armor. Inside the station, artificial gravity pulled them down to the floor. They moved through the corridors in perfect formation, weapons ready. "Station layout matches the intelligence we received," Sergeant Nina Foster said, checking her scanner. "The weapon should be in the Central Research Lab." They encountered the first guards at a checkpoint. 2 Vorlan soldiers stood watching security monitors, bored and unprepared. Danny's team stunned them with non-lethal weapons before they could raise an alarm. "Bind them and move on," Danny ordered. They pushed deeper into the station. More guards appeared, and this time they were alert. Someone had spotted the intruders on a camera. Alarms began to blare. The fighting was brief and brutal. Council guards came around a corner, firing energy weapons. Danny's team took cover behind a support pillar and returned fire. 2 guards went down. The others retreated. "Nina, can you override the alarm?" Danny asked. "Working on it," she replied, her fingers flying over her portable computer. "Got it. Alarm is silenced, but they know we're here. Then we move fast." They reached the Central Research Lab and found it defended by a dozen armed scientists and security officers. Danny didn't give them a chance to organize. His team used flashbang grenades to stun everyone in the room, then rushed in while the defenders were still disoriented. The fight was over in seconds. The station's defenders were researchers and light security, not combat soldiers. They surrendered quickly when they realized they were outmatched. In the center of the lab sat a containment unit. Inside was a vial of dark liquid, barely larger than Danny's thumb. It looked harmless, but the computer displays around it told a different story. This weapon could be released into an atmosphere and spread like a virus, targeting human DNA specifically. "Secure that containment unit," Danny ordered. "And Nina, download everything from their computers. I want evidence of who ordered this made." While Nina worked, Danny questioned the lead scientist, a thin Vorlan with frightened eyes. "Who ordered you to create this weapon?" Danny demanded. "Council Prime Zethkar," the scientist admitted quickly. "He said humans were a threat that needed to be eliminated. We had no choice but to obey." "There's always a choice," Danny said coldly. "You chose to build a weapon of genocide. We didn't want to. But refusing meant death." Danny felt his anger rise but controlled it. "Were there any other samples of this weapon?" "No, just this one. We were supposed to begin mass production next week." "Not anymore," Danny said. Nina finished downloading the data and carefully placed the containment unit in a specialized transport case. "Got everything, Colonel. We need to go. Station security is organizing a counterattack." The team fought their way back to their ship carrying the weapon and the evidence. Council forces tried to stop them, but they were too slow and poorly organized. Within 10 minutes, Danny's team was back on their ship and accelerating away from the station. Behind them, timed charges exploded throughout the research lab, destroying all the equipment and data that hadn't been downloaded. The Council would have to start from scratch if they wanted to recreate the weapon. Admiral Jake Patterson received the news aboard his flagship. "Colonel Richards has secured the biological weapon and is en route to Earth. He's also bringing evidence that proves Zethkar personally ordered its creation." President Helen Brooks, who was on a video call with Jake, smiled grimly. "Perfect. Commander Scott, are you ready with the broadcast?" Tyler Scott nodded. "Yes, Madam President. We've prepared a detailed report showing exactly what the Council planned to do. It includes testimony from Council scientists, technical specifications of the weapon, and direct orders from Zethkar. When this goes public, no species will be able to support the Council with a clear conscience." "Do it," Helen ordered. The broadcast went out across every communication channel in the galaxy. Humans and aliens alike watched in horror as the evidence was presented. The Council had planned to murder 300 million civilians with a biological weapon. They had been willing to commit genocide to win the war. The reaction was immediate and devastating for the Council. 3 more minor species announced they were withdrawing from the alliance. Several Council delegates resigned in protest. Even among the Vorlon people, there was outrage that their leader had gone so far. General Crathmore watched the broadcast and knew the war was over. The Council could not recover from this. He contacted his officers and began organizing a plan. In the Council chambers, Zethkar raged at the empty seats around him. Half the delegates had stopped attending meetings. The other half looked at him with barely concealed contempt. "This changes nothing," Zethkar shouted. "We can still win." "With what?" asked one of the few remaining delegates. "Half our fleet is destroyed. Our allies have abandoned us. The humans have proven they're better warriors than we ever imagined. And now the entire galaxy knows you planned genocide." "It's over, Zethkar. I will not surrender." "Then you'll die," the delegate said flatly and walked out. Zethkar stood alone in the vast chamber, his empire crumbling around him. Admiral Jake Patterson launched the final offensive. Human fleets, now reinforced by Drexian ships and vessels from other species who had joined humanity's side, moved toward the Vorlan homeworld. It was time to end this war. The Vorlan defenses were strong, but the defenders lacked the will to fight. Many Vorlan military officers had seen the evidence of Zethkar's planned genocide and wanted no part of it. When human forces arrived, they found minimal resistance. Jake broadcast a message to the Vorlan military. "This is Admiral Jake Patterson of Earth Defense Force. We are not here to destroy your world or harm your people. We are here to remove Zethkar and those who supported his crimes. Surrender peacefully, and you will be treated with honor. Continue to fight for a leader who planned genocide, and you will be defeated." General Crathmore was the first to respond. "Admiral Patterson, this is General Crathmore. I am ordering all Vorlan forces to stand down. We will not fight for Zethkar any longer, but I ask that you show mercy to the Vorlan people. We are not all monsters." "I agree to your terms," Jake replied. "Order your forces to return to their bases and await further instructions." Within hours, the Vorlan military had surrendered. Only a few fanatical units loyal to Zethkar continued to resist, and they were quickly overwhelmed. Captain Chris Warren led the team that went to capture Zethkar himself. They found the Council Prime in his palace, trying desperately to escape through a hidden passage. Vorlan guards stood in their way, but they made no move to defend their leader. "Step aside," Chris told them. "This doesn't have to end badly for you." The guards looked at each other, then moved aside without a word. Chris and his team entered the passage and found Zethkar at a private shuttle pad trying to flee. "It's over," Chris said, raising his weapon. Zethkar turned, his scales flashing with rage and fear. "You cannot judge me. I am Council Prime. I am above your primitive laws." "You murdered an ambassador under a flag of peace," Chris replied. "You planned genocide against an entire species. You're not above anything. You're a war criminal and you're coming with us." Zethkar tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. Chris's team surrounded him and placed him in restraints. The former Council Prime struggled and shouted threats, but no one was listening anymore. The war was over. It had lasted 3 months and cost hundreds of thousands of lives on both sides. But humanity had won, not through superior numbers, but through better technology, smarter tactics, and the absolute determination to never let Gregory Cole's death be meaningless. President Helen Brooks stood before the Galactic Assembly. A new organization formed from the ruins of the old council. Representatives from 40 species sat in the chamber, and unlike the old council, they were all equals. No one species had more power than another. "We gather today to decide the fate of those who led us to war," Helen said. "An international tribunal has been established to try Zethkar and 17 other council leaders for their crimes." The trials took months. Evidence was presented methodically and carefully. Zethkar and his co-conspirators were given lawyers and the right to defend themselves, rights they had denied Gregory Cole. Kate Morrison sat in the observer section every day, watching the proceedings. She had been appointed as Earth's first representative to the new Galactic Assembly. A POSI,